Hey guys, Eric here. It is a very odd hour of the evening I think it's past 5 a.m. In Miami time. And I have this vision and update in my head that I knew once I finally sat down and started digging into it. I was even taking like Tylenol PM and stuff, and I just can't shake it off. So then I had a coffee and I'm in Miami looking for apartments for my usual seasonal change up. And tomorrow's chock filled with appointments. There's one we've got Patrick K. I may have to change with you alone because we have the whole depth of the viewings are going to be right smack dab in the middle of our call, but we'll get it done right away, either later in the afternoon or on Friday, which I'll be going to Las Vegas from here um, to chill out a little bit. And you know, right now tonight, I just want to really give you guys some perspective and insight into like what has happened here at GIL in the last, months and years. Um, and we have people here that have stuck with GIL, obviously, for over a decade, since 2011 when we launched. Um, and we've had our shares of big, big, big winners, and we've had our shares of duds. And I think part of this, too, the reason I wanted to do this is on the heels of Metalis. I come to you guys again humbly because I don't like being wrong like that. Um, I think I mentioned on the call the other day, I was down like $225,000 on paper, just on my Metalis position. So doesn't feel the best, but it's only money. I guess that's how I get over it. However, my fiduciary responsibility, even though I am not your broker, advisor, whatever, if you guys invest in these companies based on my recommendation, my due diligence, I take that to heart very seriously. So then what do I do after that? I look at that particular deal. We'll start with that, but then we've got so much more just exciting things to share with you today. I try to keep an open mind because part of this also has to do with the fact that 2025 was our first good year. Like, good year, even though the juniors have yet to start to leapfrog the development stage and the production companies. I think that's coming next year. And there's a myriad of reasons for that, one of which they've got cash now, and they're going to be drilling. And some of these projects have got decades of drilling, and they're going to pull some of these resources from, they're going to go to official resources from these historic numbers that were just stuck in the mud for a long period of time. And some of these plays are just trading at they're just trading at valuations that are not going to stay the course. And I've got a plan. Um, I believe I've got a plan, whether it's next year or if we get a correction in all the markets, and then after that, it ends up happening. The whole critical mineral problem we have with national defense, um, the monetary system with gold and silver and Bitcoin. All of these things, none of them are going away. And it is going to be a pretty volatile period of time. However, my contention is that depending on how old you are, how much money you have set aside, how much you need every year, for your retirement, in worst case scenarios, I still think that even if you're 60 or 70 years old, you can take a percentage, even if it's just like 10% of your portfolio, and put that shit into junior miners, and another five at least into crypto, which is now making me feel more bullish than ever with this recent pullback. It was stressful when it was at 115 to 125 with no volume, and talking heads everywhere about the 4-year cycle, things of that nature. I'm not going to get into that much here right now because I want to talk about specifically what we've done, what has been called in 2025 in the various newsletters. Elite investments, I'm going to start off with that. That is not the same as GIL elite membership. In the gold investment letter, which has been my baby now for 15 years, you have the free e-letter, you have the premium service, which is like, I should know this number, but it's, like $1,300 a year. I think 777 is my one of my favorite numbers, and I put that for 6-month periods of time. And for some people, they think that could be a lot of money. I I'm never giving a discount ever again to a general populace when we're in the market environment that we're in, because even if you have 10 or 15 or 20 grand to play with, we're going to have at least one stock that will crush your costs for 3, 4, 5 years. And then we have to look at the overall performance as well, obviously. But it's about, what are you missing out on? I want to share a little bit about that because a lot of people don't know what you're missing out on. And talk some good and bad results from this last year. But I got to tell you, when I'm looking through what happened in 2025, I want to start with elite investments. So by the way, there are 5 people that have maintained your premium elite investments membership for the last couple of years when I have not been faithful with putting out stuff first for you and additional picks. So what I would strongly suggest, because I think we're about to we could potentially make game-changing, life-changing money. So that's going to go through these various vehicles that I use, which can be a little bit confusing. But for now, this is what we're doing. Elite investments, you're talking about it's like $1,000 a quarter. Or what do we have here, actually? I just looked it up and I already forgot. It is 297 a quarter, and it is only under $1,000 annually, I think. I don't know why that can't be reached, but I'll get it on here in a second. I just looked at it. It's very cheap. Okay. And a lot of times what you'll have seen if you were a free member of Elite Investments, I use that platform for kind of anything that I want, but I try to make sure that we're not really hawking a lot of the small, juniors or little penny stocks. If we do have anything like that that comes in, I make it super clear that, this is highly speculative, whatever. But the goal of Elite Investments when I started it, and as I'm about to grow it, is based on ideas that are big enough, liquid enough, sophisticated enough for family offices, RIAs, fund managers, and institutions of any sort to come in and test my ilk in that area. This is the spot, and I don't know why this isn't coming on, but I'm gonna get it up here in a second, guys, so we can just give you the regular prices on this stuff. But, for 16 years, my service as an alternative investment advisor was um, probably about two-thirds of that was just to accredited individuals, ultra high net worth individuals, institutional investors. I had RIAs as clients that liked the deal flow that I would vet from our firm, and then they would end up using it as like a pseudo investment bank. And there's some of you that are RIAs. And then there's also, some pretty big fund managers, and some of this stuff you can't get crazy in. However, I like to bring the more liquid names into elite investments. So at a minimum, you want to be on the free list, but I'm going to tell you why. And for the five of you that have been on elite investments for the last couple of years, where you're like, where's the premium extra stuff? You might not have even have noticed because it does come out as, elite investments. I'm not trying to scam anyone. It's just a matter of like, I thought that we were down to basically nobody left in that, because that's when I pivoted over to with the crypto market and this and that, got sick, other things of that nature. What I will promise you is a couple of things. Number one, you are going to get preference in terms of some of the special situations first. Number two, I'm not going to charge you guys any fee for at least 2 years. All right. Um, and it's a grand a year. And so if you guys have been paying or whatever, if you don't want to continue and you're like, yeah, I've been on there for a year and a half and I never really got what I was looking for, and I know you're promising that it's going to pick up, but I'd rather just have my money back. No problem. No problem on that one. That's not a big deal, because you deserve it. But there are some names on there as well that, Pastor Crispy and some others. And forgive me while I go ahead and get this darn thing done. It's funny because AI, we're also so much thinking about AI changing um everything. And I can't even get spell check or sharing my personal hotspots on my computers, and it can be a real pain in the butt. But I think what we're going to get here now is we will get okay. I just want to I want to share the pricing with you with this stuff, guys, because you may want to make some choices today in terms of like what you have, what you may want to chop up if you want to secure uh, your positioning. The most important one, they're getting all very important, but um, elite investors, I increased that number from 25 to 40 because I saw that we were coming into this better market, and we were going to see the activity ramp up, and we're at 38 already. So the only time that I am going to allow for us to go over 40 is from this call, and give you like a week or something. But if somebody else comes after we get that information of people that came from the call, we have a waiting list, and people will not be able to get on GIL elite investments because it's a special service. It really is. And we'll talk a little bit about the money that is made there. But let's also look at, I'm sorry, just bear with me 1 second. It looks like this is going to finally work. I can't believe I can't even get my own website. Okay, so yeah, the Elite Quarterly, which is not GIL, this is eliteinvestments.com, is 297 a quarter. So It's very cheap, and then the elite annual is 997. Part of the reason I did put it on the cheaper level and have never raised it is because I knew it would be choppy sort of communication. Um, but this is where I put out like the Carl Icahn um, fund that is spitting out a 22% um, yield. And here's what we've done in elite investments in 2025. We have had, and let me just get this out of the way. Absolutely. I'm pretty sure I've got this stuff in really good spot. So I talk about this is more gold investment letter, but I did recommend Carlisle in elite investments, Sassy Gold, I believe once or twice, Giga, and Phenom. Okay, so those were like four of the type of ideas that generally you're not going to get in there. But let's just say they all went to zero. Here's what else we had, and you had the choice to buy in elite investments in 2025. Okay, we made a fortune, and I'm going to start with um, the quantum computing stocks. And I have all of this stuff still in my accounts. I can show you. I've got nominal positions, but they show the returns, and a lot of those have come back, cut in half. But I remember on, I believe it was Rigetti warrants, up over 25,000%. That was a big hit for us. Those were a big hit for us. And so in this is what I'll trade like in Robinhood. I don't try to mix the listed companies too much with my junior miners. If you're going to do that and you're Canadian at Haywood or you're doing it at E-Trade or Schwab or whatever in the US, that's totally fine. But I like to build up that Robinhood account. And I actually challenged myself this last year to see what I can do without, sort of my inside dirt on this or that's coming and nobody's paying attention. And I can talk to CEOs and get information and, and make money. But what could I do going back to my skills as a tape reader, a technician, and a fundamental analyst? And I'm pretty pleased because the last check that I just did yesterday, Robinhood in the last 12 months, my account went from 150,000. It was down at that time, like about 100 grand. I probably put in like 250, and I've already taken out 1.8 million, and I still have another 600,000 in Robinhood. Um, Killing it because a lot of these were the critical minerals, the AI plays, the quantum computing plays, and even the mineral stuff that were, they're listed companies. So you can still make a lot of money on that. So QBTS, those of you that remember D-Wave, I'm going to be very close on when we bought it. I looked into all this stuff. When we bought it, the price we bought it, what to buy it up to, and then I'm just going to talk about how high they went. Doesn't mean that I sold them all there, but it just shows that there's massive potential in some of this stuff. And I will say, guys, too, and gals, with regard to any of us and all of us, particularly if you become a professional investor in some way, shape, or form, we we have certain qualities, right? You try to develop those qualities and then you improve your blind spots and things of that nature. This is a lifelong game for me. It's a lifelong education for me. I will never be perfect. There's no doubt about that. But I think I'm a very good, and I've heard this from many, many people. I'm a very good stock picker. Um, I can isolate securities. And, you guys have seen over the years some of this stuff that is like, really popped. Same thing in crypto. But anyway, QBTS. So this deal we bought in, I don't know if I'm going to get this one wrong or what, but we'll just keep it conservative. 84 cents, February 1st, 2024. So we had to wait a year and a half, whoop-de-doo, um, because the stock went to $46. So you're talking about over a 50x on D-Wave. And then when you look at the warrant, um, ridiculous. I still have, let me see if I can just even pull it up. It's down recently. They've gotten cut in half, but this is an account that I'm getting rid of. But like look at oh, this is Rigetti on this one. And you can see still up 10,248%. At my cost basis is 14 cents on Rigetti for the warrant that ended up going to $47. Okay. So I had built in this sort of, it caught my eye that the SPACs were becoming way out of favor. They were getting dumped on hard, but they were doing deals that were cashing these deals up, and they were moving into some of what I thought were going to become hot spaces: quantum computing, AI, and people. Like even Oklo. Sam Altman is now one of the tech geniuses of the world in Silicon Valley. And that's just another example. But before I get to that, QBTS, about a year and a half, 84 cents to $46. QBTSW, 30 cents to $56. And I sold these in pieces along the way, and I still have a little bit, and I'm like, I'm just going to keep these on the record in case people don't believe me that I, actually bought at these prices. And I have them spread out in different accounts. But in any event, Rigetti, which I thought was a bit riskier, um, even hit bigger. Cost of 14 cents, as you saw on the warrant purchase in Fidelity. I also had some in E-Trade and things like that that wasn't necessarily as cheap, and that went to $47. Okay. So you're talking about, let me just do the math in my head because I'm not seeing any other calculators here. Yeah, I mean, 140, 14. Um, Let me see there. Yeah, 140, 14 is 100x, and 147 would be 1,000x. So you cut that into a third, 300x on Rigetti warrants. 300x, okay, in this obscure little elite investments, play that I have that I do take very seriously because I actually believe that I have some very large investors, like the Ray Dalios of the world are on my elite investments, because they know that they can, actually look at some of the deals versus just, a tiny private placement and a junior minor because they're too big. So anyway, we've had that performance in those plays. Rigetti itself went from 50 cents to $56. Um, and then I want to talk about Oklo, which I had noticed was a Sam Altman back deal from Y Combinator. I've spent a lot of time and years in Silicon Valley back in the day. And I'm very grateful for that experience. I understand a lot of the ins and outs and a lot of the even legal speak that could end up really crushing you if you're not careful about things like liquidation preferences and other things. Um, but when that market started to cool way off, and I'm looking at the nuclear need, and all of a sudden they've developed these small cabin looking like nuclear reactors. Um, I just thought this is going to end up getting a lot of press and run, and so I came out with that one in the early summer of 2024 at $10, and it went down to 7 over the next few months. This is where like perspective, I always say, counts, because if you did what I did, which was every dollar it went down, I added a little bit more. I had a good sized position, but I added, then it got to the point where it's down 50 cents in a day, and I'd buy another, 1 or 2 thousand shares, depending on how much cash that I had. And, or you can be a short term minded thinker and say, you suck. The stock went right down. I do think that people that look at things that way in these markets are idiots. You're fools. You're actual fools. You're never going to make any money in the stock market. You just can't do things that way. And you can realize that I'm early a lot. And so that can give opportunities to add positions slowly but surely, cheaper, making them bigger as long as you're actually ultimately right. That's a big benefit. Not on all of them. And I don't want to see Metallis rip to 55 and then go to 25 in a day on huge volume. We'll get to that in a second, but like, that's one where I admittedly made a mistake of getting too over enthusiastic, um, on that deal, which still has incredible hope. And I've got a lot of faith that that thing is going to ultimately pay off. And frankly, just for those of you that are in Metallis or have not taken a position in Metallis, where we close at today, like 15 cents Canadian. Let me just double check that. Yeah, so we're looking at a close of 18 cents. This thing goes to 14, 15, 16 cents. And the volume is a little bit later, like even tomorrow. It's time to start buying the fuck out of Metallis again and buy it up to 20 cents. We can take our time a little bit. They do have some other drill results that are coming. I'm not banking on those being the big catalyst, but there there's some amazing stuff at that Greyhound property, okay? So please do know, um Metallis is going to work. It is. Short term, could run into this lull of the winter and coming off of some mistakes made where they didn't probably drill in exactly the right areas. There was not too much of a convincing argument to go and spread out holes in 5 different areas with a 12 drill program. I would have preferred to see them go to like, 3 spots maybe. Anyway, whatever. I'm a huge believer. A lot of my paper profits have been washed away, and I am buying more stock. Let's move on to the elite. HODL. Most of you guys are familiar. If you're newer, you should definitely know about this story. CYCF, CYCRF, in the well, now it's actually got a different it's got a different symbol because it's listed now in the US, and it actually is still HODL.CA. Okay, and the chart looks terrible, but we accumulated this stock for 2 years, and I basically looked through how many times in the summer not this last summer, the summer before, that I kept saying not only like don't sell because they're trading at a discount to the balance sheet on the crypto. I sensed something was coming. These are real people in the industry, and I started to encourage people to accumulate. And so yeah, so I 3 times I ended up sending emails between June 28th and July 7th saying buy HODL. Some people hopefully did. Um, and that was between actually 8 and 12 cents. So what ended up happening? Um, a lot of stuff. That stock changed some people's lives because between August and the early part of January, the stock went over $6, six and change. So call it a 50 bagger, 60 bagger, 40 bagger, depending on where you got in, but you should have made a fortune. And if there are people out there, I just want to throw this out there too. I'm going to talk um, reasonably about strategies of selling. It's the toughest part of the business, but it is your responsibility how you do that. I will share times when I say, like, just like with HODL, you know, when the deal hit 598 or something, I said I was out of 93% of my position. And I even talked about it earlier when I was out of a quarter of my position when it was under $1 because I had a lot of stock. So I wanted to mitigate that risk. So I do try to help with that, guys. But like, if you ride something up that goes up that much and you don't sell any, you have nobody else to blame but yourself if and when they roll back over to their trend line. Um, so don't just look to me. I can do for a lot of people, it's the hard part, which is pick the ones that are going to go up a lot. You have to have a framework. You have to be taking some profits as the price goes up. You have to understand on the charts, like when they get overbought and it's not sustainable. HODL was like so overbought on the monthly, the weekly, the daily. I was like, I don't care if this is the best thing since sliced bread. I've learned my lesson. I'm out of 93% of my position. Um, and made a large amount of money. That was on Elite Investments that was covered there. That was also covered at GIL because I had such conviction in that. And I wanted to get people more into crypto, even though those of you that go back to with me to 2016 when I recommended Bitcoin under $500, I really encouraged people to go on Coinbase and go ahead and open an account, send money, get used to it, put it in your money market for when you want to buy because when stuff starts to moon, Coinbase is notorious, and a lot of these exchanges are for being overwhelmed with traffic. So if you're thinking that you can open an account like that, um, through their approval process and everything, you're sorely mistaken. So anybody, by the way, that does not have any cryptocurrency exposure, um, you need to. You utterly need to have exposure. And I'll get on to the Phenom crypto letter shortly. Then we had the Oklo after we had the Sound Hound, um, you know, buck 90, October 16th. Um, stock went to $34. Sound Hound warrants. Um, I have I have the cost basis on mine at 14 cents, but when I looked at the chart, it said it was over $1. Doesn't matter. They went to 21.50, which was a huge win. And those things moved violently. Uh, HODL moved violently. Rigetti, Qubits, violent moves on the upside. So, just because we get lulled to sleep sometimes because we're waiting, or we're in a bear market and we're getting discouraged and this and that. When it's game on, you better slap yourself in the face and dump a big thing of ice water on your head because you got to get alert quick. Um, Seriously, this is the type of thing that I do. Maybe not the water every time, but sometimes I do, just to be like, okay, this is happening now. I've been betting on it for a while. It's actually here. What am I going to do next? So then we go on. I'm going to move a little bit quicker. Yeah, there was the, four table pounding buys between September 11th and October 30th to buy SoundHound at $4.77 as an average. And I believe it actually went higher than what I just quoted you. Let me just double check. That $22. So whatever. I was playing it as a swing trade just to go back to like 8 or 9, but it just kept blowing through those numbers. So by the time anything makes it to eliteinvestments.com, I feel like I'm talking to people that, in a lot of cases, are smarter than I am, and I want to impress, and I want to make sure that I don't just give every, little pick that comes my way. They've got to be solid deals. I will massage in a junior here and there because why not? And these are things that, most of us already own. But elite investments is very important. And the treats you're going to get if you join the premium on elite investments, private placements, and private placements are going to come in the form of not just mining stocks. We're going to get tech. We can even get involved in SPACs. I'm moving again, like I did in my early days, developing relationships with firms like Goldman Sachs and Ray J, Merrill, these different groups, because I have millions of dollars worth of stock options in THM, and I'm like interviewing these different groups, and I'm going to establish relationships there again, to get all of their research. Some firms actually still have very good research. Goldman, they're not dumb. I will take into consideration their research and what they have to say, but all of a sudden, you've got the high net worth broker works with some institutions and some high net worth individuals and says, "Hey, we've got this IPO coming. And do you want some? Yeah, can I carve out 2 million for Elite Investments premium members? You don't have to pay me anything. You'll get a bunch of new clients." That's why you want to own and be a part of Elite Investments. Okay, premium. So Oklo hit. Then we had NNE, which was a byproduct of Oklo, May of 2024. I came out with that as a strong buy. I just looked through my Robinhood account to see where I started buying it. It was at $4.51, and it went to $50 in 7 months, 6 months. Then, when the critical minerals area started to rock and roll, I was very intrigued by CRML, um, Critical Rare Minerals Corporation. It's a lot of the Greenland stuff, but they were attracting a lot of capital. And on that one, I got in at $1.79, my first purchase, and I bought it up to 216, and the high, which is where I sold most of it, $32 within not a lot of time. I'm talking, are there losers in elite investments this last year? Not really. I mean, we have some of the ones like the Carlyles, the Sassies. If I've mentioned the juniors and I've highlighted them and they're still in the shitter, um, that's the negative side of it. But if you have returns like this, they can all go to zero. And you're going to have, like, I will be on the books with elite investments, and I'm actually going to do this, and take audited performance numbers for what was recommended and so on. Um, but we had just, we crushed it after crushed it after crushed it. We also had uh Niocorp, which I bought into. This is a very interesting, rare metal play that I ended up getting in at 257, 258, 210, 231. And the stock, I sold a piece of it, like half of it, because I still think it's going to go higher. It went to 12 and a half bucks, and that was in October. So this isn't a long period of time for holding. Actually, yeah, so the Niocorp was in 2025 when that buy came out. This was after I did a lot of the stuff that, we're moving forward with the Special Operations Association of America. And this stuff is coming on the plate. So Elite Investments is a very worthy um, newsletter to be signed up on. Let me skip forward to one other option that could be more economic for a lot of you guys, which is, and it's only going to come from this call that I'm going to go above 40 on the GIL Elite membership. That's where we spread out, chop up um, allocations. A lot of times with some of the smaller ones, people don't get that much. But look at like what we just did. This is happening. It happens regularly, okay? And I can't give them to premium members because they're just too small. But these are the ones that I can negotiate 5-year, 4-year warrants, full warrants, cheap warrants, no acceleration clause, that have real, just a huge discount to them. And Searchlight was priced at 5.5 cents Canadian. And we are Searchlight Resources close today at 13. Strong buy to 15 cents minimum. This is a stock that's going on the model portfolio, and it's going to stay there because this stock could go to $5, $3, $2, $10. They are asset heavy and asset rich. Now they have a little bit of money. It's heavily insider owned. The former CEO was like coming to the end of his road, kind of reminded me of Focus Mining, where we had, CEO did a good job for 15 years, but he was like, I'm done with this crap. And it was in a bad market. And then we had, JD Moore come in there, save the day. And that was another one where it was only elite members at 4 cents with a 6 cent warrant. And the stock went to 20. So I'm pretty good at also picking out the private placements and then negotiating on our behalf. And some of them, just like the Metallis situation, I don't really flinch too much because we have other shit that is flying. And you should not be deterred in this market environment. If I whiff temporarily on something you bet big on, I'm just saying it's like I look at it like 2016, I went to Europe and I went for uh I don't know what it was, a 6 or 8 week trip. It was right after there were a ton of suicide bombers in Israel and in Turkey. And my mom was like, "Why on earth are you going over there?" And I told her, and this was right after with Bastille days in Nice, France, where a lunatic terrorist took a van and just ran over like he killed like 90 people. So I landed in Nice and I noticed how quiet it was. And it was a female taxi driver. And I said, "Hey, um, how much is, tourism falling off? It's usually a lot more busy because it was like July in Nice." And she's like, "It's got to be at least half." maybe more, people cancel their plans. And I said, don't they understand the safest place to go to avoid a terrorist attack is where they just did a terrorist attack and there's a million cops around? I look at it that way in the sense of just like batting averages of, you know, how many stocks I can get right, wrong, you know, good pickers, good stock pickers, good investors. Like if they go on a slide, hopefully, God forbid for us, I think that was a Metalis situation. We've also got Phenom down, things like that. That's when you want to bet on people that have the ability, because you're going to get outsized returns versus chasing stocks that are going up all the time. And that's just a side note. But we have, we have the GIL elite and premium membership. Some of you may not, um, fit for the elite. You have to be an accredited investor. Nobody's going to be checking your bank account, but worth $1 million and 200 grand a year or 200 grand a year in income. And really, to me, the most important thing is that you understand the risk, where you're sending, instead of buying the stock and you can sell it the next day if you want in your brokerage account, you're wiring the money to the company to finance them, getting this special warrant. Warrants could make a fortune for us. This is why I'm really focused on warrants right now and will continue to be while things are relatively cheap, because they will make us a fortune during the junior bull that will kick into gear. It'll kick into gear in 2026. I'm very confident of that. Anyway, so, but if you understand the risk and you have like 100 grand or something where you're like, yeah, I want to risk this money. I'm not super rich. I've got a job. I've got income. Feel free to join the elite. Beat the rest of these guys in here. I have people in the elite that people overuse the term billionaire quite a bit. I think a lot of people that are very wealthy are like, worth like a couple $100 million or something, and they can just get away. They'll let people talk about a billionaire status. There aren't that many billionaires in the world, but we've got at least three that are in the elite service. We've got other very substantial high net worth people that are in there and market sophisticated. And the one thing for them that's a little bit frustrating is, because I have to put a mini and a maxi when we get these small placements, but they understand that the terms and the deal are so juicy, and there's such a low, uh, likelihood that we're going to lose money. In fact, we're probably going to make a lot of money on this stuff. Um, like Rockland, we just placed that deal. Um, that's going to do very well. And then we had, on the Searchlight, I remember calling one of the guys, one of the bigger guys, and he likes to do 200-300 grand per placement. I said, look, here's the good news. This deal is going to be a monster. Here's the bad news. I can only give you 30 grand. He's like, okay, I'll take it. I'll take whatever I can get. So, but a lot of times, if some of you want to spread out your risk, usually I have a 20 grand Canadian minimum on these deals, even with the lower allocations. But we're going to start seeing bigger allocations in hot deals that I will be able to get us, and we can write bigger checks in. And, if you could do 15 or something and you want to do that in like 5 deals over the course of the year to spread your risk out and build your warrant portfolio, go for it. This is one of the big benefits of being involved with us on the elites. And you're going to get everything first that I talk about, and you're going to get some crypto stuff, and you're going to get some of these plays that I buy on Robinhood that are tech related, AI related. I look for this stuff all the time. I'm like a crackhead when it comes to finding these ideas. So, up to you on that one. That is the creme de la creme. 10 grand a year, it's nothing. I mean, it's nothing. If you have one successful private placement that you put 15 grand in, you're going to pay for 5 years of your membership. So, so yeah, let's see who steps up on the GIL Elite. If you were Elite before, for at least a couple of years, I was thinking about this because I was thinking about some of the folks that were at like our Phenom conference, and for whatever reasons, when I diverted into crypto and stuff, like things just they kind of went their separate ways, and I was so busy with the crypto, and you know, several of them have stayed on premium and free to get that stuff and joined Phenom Crypto, but I would encourage you guys to just go on and get back in the deal flow side of things because it's going to be very interesting this year. And then last but not least, if you join GIL Elite membership, investment membership, which is 9,000 whatever US a year, and then I think on the quarterly, let me just give you official numbers because these are all fairly similar, but they're a little different. And so GIL premium biannual 797. Premium annual 1,477. This is US dollars. I'm not a Canadian. Elite subscriber options. We have to change this because I moved it to 40. It says a maximum of 25. I kept this at 25 people for years, but I feel like 40 is acceptable. And if we get one little surge here from all of our, premium guys, and it goes up to 50 or something like that, it's not going to hurt anybody. And some people are old, they're going to die soon. There's all kinds of shit to make way for for us not to be too crowded. I will ensure that that's the case, but that is 2,997 a quarter, or 9,777 for the Elite annual. I actually launched an institutional investor Elite, which is more for CEOs of publicly traded companies that we've got big positions in, but that these guys already know that we have a lot of connections in the sector. And I've actually started to put my investment banker hat back on and introducing potential mergers and acquisitions, and property acquisitions. And I'm really digging into that. And I'm going to be brushing up on everything that I know, with drill results from engineering to metallurgy to, just everything. I've got to. But I have the relationship. So I say to, the CEOs, it's like, look, I'm not going to go and pump your stock up for 17 grand. I normally, when I would do this stuff, I would charge 400 for 6 months. But but for those of you that are CEOs or whatever, and are on there, and there are now, I think we've got about 5 or 6 CEOs of publicly traded small companies that we own a bunch of. Look, guys, I don't know how much of you are actually dipping your own money into this stuff, but do it. I'm going to make you money. And again, a lot of the confidence there comes from the backdrop of where we are in a bull cycle. And from time to time, I crush it really hard. And so I want you guys not just to look at the research of like who's doing what, and can we get involved there? Can you introduce me to the CEO? We can maybe do a JV. That's fine. That's what it's there for. But take your own money and get into some of this stuff, because when you're elite, you're getting it first. Look at THM. Okay, so let's just move on real quick with some of the tech hits that we had this year. THM, um, December 7th, my contract started. That and Strathmore, my Strathmore contract is over, by the way. So that was already 6 months. So the only active marketing deal that I have is International Tower Hill. And I took that deal solely for options because I believe I can make 10 to 20 million dollars on that deal. And so and that will segue into a lot of the cool nonprofit stuff we're doing at the Phenom Foundation, building out this church, the Numa House. And my hope will be that'll be done in about 15 months. And we very, very well are going to have another conference with some size in Miami before then. But then, I'm going to prune some of the people that have been loyal with me, and we're going to get into some stuff that I've been shown and practiced enough. It's not going to be a religious sort of a thing, but it is going to help you raise your game in areas of your life that are the most important. So, anyway, THM is still so cheap, and this deal was at 48 cents when I signed on. That's where my options were priced. I got a million options that vested immediately. I got 500,000 if I got it over a buck in 6 months and beat GDXJ. I said, I'm not even sweating that. I'm going for the other million, which is going to come in a year. And I'm going to do this properly and slowly. And you guys have come through, and I think this is going to be one where we're all just going to do very, very well on this play. These guys are all, geniuses, from the investor base to, lots of the management with their abilities with engineering and metallurgy and exploration drilling, and with the asset that they have. Those things are covered. What they didn't have covered is they can't tell their story properly. They're kind of really conservative, boring guys, and that's why, um, when we talked, they picked me. I had met Carl Hanneman and Rick Carlisle in 2018 at one-on-one conference in New York. And then I got back, and after I got to know Marcelo Kim from Paulson a little bit, who works for John, and they're the biggest shareholder, and Marcelo's the chairman there, and he's also the chairman at Perpetua. I wrote him an email and said, like, you might want to send like a concierge nurse or doctor over to the offices in Anchorage and see if these guys actually have a pulse. I was joking, but it was like, they just didn't know how to tell the story. And the story is a wonderful, very undervalued story. That is a core position we're going to want to have. And then that one, for example, we could do bigger private placements with that, but believe it or not, the last three, all the insiders took it at the market with no warrant. So I'm like, what the hell do we want to do that for? We'll just buy it in the market. So anyway, we had 50 cents to $3 in less than a year, six bagger. You're keeping track, hopefully, of some of the stuff I'm talking about, from the QBTS warrants, Rigetti, QBTS, Oklo, NNE. I mean, these are they're way bigger than 10 baggers. I did feature First Majestic, which I also did in GIL premium at $5, and that's 16 now. I'm not selling any of that stock. I think it has a long way to go. This is where I brought out SILJ, the ETF for juniors in silver, but it's their juniors are a lot bigger than some of the juniors that we play with, and that's gone from 11 to 25. Niocorp, another critical mineral play mentioned in elites. And some of these are, they go back and forth. Like the elite members on GIL, a lot of times will get these first before the elite investments group gets them, or the paying members in both, because it's a small group, will get that information at the same time. But elite GIL people get about 3 times the action in terms of these ideas, but you are first. And yeah, so Niocorp's been very, very nice to us. The Palladium ETF, since I've talked about that and really tried to pound the table at 99 to $100, is now at what, 133, and my target is 250. I've got a lot of money in that. I think that's kind of a layup, at least to like 200. PPTA, I already traded out of that. That was $90 to 150. It happened quick, and I moved the money into PALL. PLG, Platinum Group Metals, got into that 147, 153, went to $3, sold half. Um, just because I wanted to raise some capital to put into some of these other special situations, and I still have whatever it is, 50,000 shares. So yeah, I mean, 150 grand, if it goes up 5 or 10 fold, it's a lot of money. ITRG, this Integra deal is one that I found out about when I went to Ohio, and looking at the Metallus situation, and the founder was mentioning how they're crushing it with their silver development, starting a new mine. I looked into it when I got back. I started mentioning it at $2. It's already over four, so it's doubled. I look at those as like mid-level producers. I'll talk about things like Mux in GIL Elite and Elite Investments. And sometimes they'll talk about like Mux or THM in Elite Investments free letter, too. Um, you just get a lot more if you're gracious enough to pay me, for my time. I've really gotten away from a lot of the promotional stuff, which used to really pay the bills. And, I have 7 or 8 employees right now, and with the way that I live and do my thing, I gotta make 100 grand a month just to break even. So we do have a lot of premium members, and the increase in the elites certainly help with that. But um I need to have subscribers sustain my business model, and then once or twice a year I'll take a marketing deal. And those are going to be on either the CSE, because the TSXV, I'm just going to keep my mouth closed, um, and or the NASDAQ, NYSE, Amex in the US listed companies. No problem dealing with the SEC. And I'm confident now also in a better market, I will be able to help to boost and move um, multi-billion-dollar market cap stocks. It's coming. And you guys being in, if you're in elite GIL, you're in the catbird seat for everything. You go into elite investments for the premium service, you're in a good catbird seat. GIL Premium is the next best thing, and that is one where I will, if we pass along placements that we have enough to give to the elites, I won't go to eliteinvestments.com. That will be more for like tech deals and um, robotics and nuclear and stuff like that. And then in the case of um, in the case of the juniors that are still small, but we have room, that goes to the GIL premium. I haven't had many GIL premium, you know, placements recently. That'll go up and down, but you got to realize too, guys. I mean, you're competing against 438 other people. And, half of these people have been with me for a long time. So it's hard for me to pick, and I'll do like a little rotation, try to get one or two people in here or there. Or if I know someone who, like, basically, I just had a text from a gentleman who has supported me since 2003 when I was doing late stage venture capital out of Silicon Valley in a Chicago office. Um, and he took some on the chin there. He stuck with me and couldn't catch a break, even with a bunch of the big winners we had in GIL. Finally knocked it out of the park with HODL, got back in the mix. But the reason I bring him up is because if there's people like that who supported me way back in the day, like, I'm going to give money back to you guys as we move forward and do it as fairly as I can. Okay, so I'm going to stop there on. We also had CRML, which was the critical minerals deal, 129 to $30. We had the shitters that I've talked about. Excuse me. Um, I want to get into briefly. These are all things for you guys to consider to, like, up your memberships, stay with what you have, knowing what's going on. I just want to relay a lot of confidence in the state of humility. I think it's good what happened, to me with Metalis, because I've had feelings before when I was a broker or even in the newsletter business when everything is popping. It's almost impossible in my experience to just, like, not have pride and ego um, start to rise up in you. And I can tell when it's coming and it's there. And I pray and I'm like, Lord, take this away from me. I'm not trying to be somebody who's haughty. These are blessings from you. I'm not trying to do that. But when those states of being come into play, I slow down a little bit and I'm just not as aggressive. And I know my mind and my spirit. We just got, blessed with a bunch of good stuff usually, and things are flying. And um, so I get more careful. And these are things you don't hear about when you're talking about professional money managers or newsletter writers and stuff. My personal life, my social life, my spiritual life, my everything, business life, they're all intertwined. And so I do my best with that stuff. I hope you guys have a big position in WAM, Alaska Silver. They are going to start coming out with some news on gallium. And that's a big deal because those are semiconductor necessities that China cut us off from. And THM, they're saying Q1 because they're conservative. I think it'll be in January, but they're going to come out with, I mean, they have so much, over 1 million tons minimally of stibnite antimony at really high grades. And they're going to do the same playbook as they did with Perpetua. When some of you remember back in the day, it was only 2020. I did my first interview on Real Vision and I focused on THM and MUX. And THM tripled in like 5 days from that platform. And it was a spike, so it ended up coming on back down. But now we have a bigger audience around THM. There's bigger money circling around THM. There's going to be bigger raises that are not as dilutive on THM. God knows what Paulson's got up his sleeve. I mean, the guy wrote $1 billion check to buy out 50% of Donlin at NovaGold from Barrick. Um, who knows, but it's cheap. It's one of the cheapest in the marketplace that I see, which is why I'm so heavy in it. Silver, somebody had asked me, and I'm going to wrap up in a second. Silver, somebody had asked me on our call the other day, like, where's it going? And I don't know about the next month or two or three. But I think you have to be in the mindset that 150 to $250 silver is coming. It's the most undervalued precious metal in the world. So you want to have stakes in some of this stuff that is going to be like the gallium. I don't know how many of you guys ended up investing in uh, Gabe Alonso Mendoza's fund, the Territon fund. But if you didn't, like, look what's happened since I did it and I told you guys to get in it. I'm up like 70% in a fund since April 1st. Um, this situation is not going to be like a pump and then it's done. It's going to have big volatility and retracements, but we're in a real pickle with this critical minerals stuff. Um, Also, what else did I want to say? Okay, so really quickly, I've got to mention this. These are the juniors in the venture cap portfolio, okay? That everybody gets access to when you're a gold investment letter premium person. And I'm very happy to say that we've destroyed it. We've just utterly destroyed the market in a huge way. Even if you don't buy all of them, you want to buy like at least five, six, seven, eight of the companies, put in the same amount of money. Don't put everything you want in it right away in case it does go down, that you can be happy that you can buy more and you have cash set aside. But, that is where we have the sub 5 million market cap deals. And some of those are duds, like the um Infinitum. Infinitum is going to be okay. It's just that it's all cleaned up and it's ready, but we don't know what assets they're putting in there. I need to call Matt Hudson next week and find out what the hell they're going to do, because they should have done something already. But it's like, $800,000 market cap with plenty of cash in the bank to survive for however long. And these guys have access to deal flow. So that one will actually end up, I think, paying off. And when I say that, I mean 3 to 5x, sort of a minimum, but it's just been, there's no reason to pound a table on it because they haven't had a bunch going on. But on the other hand, it does make sense to pound the table on Beyond Lithium, under 5 cents, cashed up, going to start drilling. Bronco, which was Damara, up to 8 cents. Gonna start drilling. Go look back at their last drill program. Fantastic numbers. Caribou Rose and these three here haven't really, like, they've had some spikes with volume when they've had some good news or whatever, but they haven't really gotten out of that range. But they will. They will go in an explosive manner. And CRB is run by some pros, and these guys actually can run that company profitably because they're true prospect generators. They get paid and they don't have outbound costs. The only reason they raise money is because they really want to drill some of these 100% owned properties that they feel could have some big discoveries. So on the venture list, I will specify which legacy positions are still a buy, and that would include like under 40 Murchison Minerals. We all know what happened there. I have so much money in that deal, and I was down like 65%. I was patient. I don't like the management just because of the way that they handled things like 2 years ago with the private placement. But I know Mike Gentili now, and he is a shareholder there. And I'm sure if we need to do something, He and or I can get the attention of the largest shareholders, but they're also guys that know what they're doing, and they've got two very, very large prospects, and it's just way, way too cheap. So, like a Murchison could end up going from 40 cents to $4. I have it up to a buy up to 40. If you don't own any, you can buy it up to 45 cents Canadian. CRB, I have it a buy up to 7.5 Canadian. BRON, 8 cents. Beyond Lithium, 5 cents. I am recommending, as of right now, for those of you that are premium members, start nibbling again on Metallis. Um, you just definitely don't want to be selling around here. I mean, unless you have all of these other winners from GIL and Elite Investments and everything, and you need a tax loss sale, there's no other reason to do it. It's just a terrible time to do that. So, Nickel Creek Platinum is back in the buy range. That deal is so cheap. Electrum's behind it. Um, and I'm not going back into HODL yet. I want to see some things turn in crypto. Good time to sub into crypto. But yeah, so there's more. I'm missing a sheet here of all the stuff that just exploded from like Namibia Critical Minerals, Sun Summit. Um, we had probably 8 or 9 of the companies in the venture cap list that went up between 2 and 8-fold. So even if you had some of these ones that are struggling or were struggling, I mean, Metallis went back on that list at 4.5 cents, guys. So, if you own it at 5 or 6 cents and you've held it for a year and a half, and you watch it go to 55 and then it gets cut down to 15, I mean, you're still up 3 times your money. So I try to be very careful with entry prices, how high to buy up to. We have private placements coming, and the higher on the rung you are, the better allocation that you're going to get. And that is where tremendous amounts of money will be made. I'm working on a lot of stuff in that arena. Um, some really cool stuff. I do like SOUNW. Again, I think that the molybdenum arena is going to start to fire up again, but I think it's also above our $5 million cap. Honey Badger's getting close, but that thing tripled right after we put it on our list. I'm looking and hunting for some amazing silver plays, and you want to sign up also at a minimum for the GIL premium, and you really want to do it for the elite just for the sake of getting the new additions to, because a lot of these have just gotten way above our buy up to prices. And I've got some really good ones. So if you join GIL Elite, you're not going to get it in the Elite Investments Premium, just so you know. It's GIL Elite, GIL Premium, but the premium members get it after there's a chance for the elite members to shop, because you have to buy these things slowly or they're just going to fly. And but look, even if you're a large investor, you can accumulate 50, 75, $100,000 worth of this stuff, and you're going to see some of these turn into 2, 3, $4 million. And I think that's worth it for just about everybody. At least you can buy your daughter her 16-year-old birthday present BMW, and the bar mitzvah is paid for, and the night at Chuck E. Cheese. Whatever. It's a lot of money. And for those of you that are on the smaller or middle end trying to go to the next level, take a shot now, guys. This market is here. It is ready to pounce, and barring any health issues for me or anything, I'm going to be aggressive. again, I have no problem apologizing for things like where I make a mistake. I got over enthusiastic with Metalis. Um, I don't like in even after the crypto stuff, that's the last thing I have to go through. The crypto stuff, when I made more money than I ever made in my life, it was one of these things where hopefully you guys can understand too, a little bit, where on the one hand, I'm very happy. I've made fortune. On the other hand, I'm talking to all of my people from GIL and old clients and stuff, and they're just starting to email me about how do I open a Coinbase account when, Bitcoin was already 65,000. And I'm like, I'm out of 60% of it. Where were you at 2,000 or at 500 or 6,000? It gets very frustrating. So I would say if you've got any trust or confidence in me in terms of my ability to navigate very volatile areas, just take a chunk of money and do it the right way with GIL and Elite Investments, whatever. If you get in to a premium service, listen to my buy up to prices and try to buy pretty much most of what, as much money as you have, but buy a chunk of what I'm recommending, because I have people all the time that, they come back to me like on HODL. It's like HODL's been a piece of shit. It's all the way down. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't have that many 50 baggers every year or two. And that was a 50 bagger. And you somehow screwed up selling any of it. And for people like that, I can't help you very much. Okay. So we'll celebrate our wins. And the third thing, and me talking more about this stuff does go out to the GIL Elites, GIL Premium, and Elite Investments premium service, because it's more manageable groups. And it seems like the intelligence and experience level is a little bit higher. People aren't stupid and just gonna like blast out. I mean, I did one day a buck 20 on HODL, where I said I sold 20% of my position. It broke the circuit breakers in like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, because it went below 80 cents, because everybody and their mother was apparently just waiting for me to say something about taking some profits when I've told everybody for eons, scale out as it goes higher, get out of a third when it triples, do it in pieces. You're a gentleman in the market. Last thing, I'm going to talk about uh, GIL Elite also gets Phenom Crypto Premium, okay, for free. You get everything. And that's why that I think is the best bet, especially since we're upping the amount of people that are going to be able to get in there through next week, call it. I'm not going to go over like 52, 55. Maybe we'll cut it at like 47 or something. But um, yeah, it's going to be a coveted spot, guys. I mean, you should jump on that. But I think also what I want to mention, besides the fact that I am chomping at the bit to add to the um, the model venture cap portfolio for GIL premium and elite members, because I found it's just incredible. They're still where they're trading. And we've had a lot of success in a lot of these deals. So I'm really happy about that. But I'm actually incredibly excited about crypto opportunities. I have got my eyes on, call it like 8 to 12 crypto tokens. Um, and some of them top 30 tokens are not like super small. Um, a couple of them are, just to give that little bit of a punch. But when I refigure that portfolio, because we have had some duds that just, that's one of the downsides of not having regulation and securities laws is you don't always know when somebody in a company is either stealing or running out of money. And they call those rug pulls, but we can survive all of those and then some by just having a couple that will do what, half of what we did in 2020, 2021. And I don't see a problem with that based on everything that I'm looking at. And I have zeroed in on incredible opportunities. So maybe for some of you, you might just say, okay, hey, I want more gold junior ideas and I need to get into crypto. I don't know how much I'm going to put into private placements and all that stuff. So I'll just go on GIL premium and Phenom crypto premium and start building those up. That could be a feasible thing. Again, if you do the GIL elite, you get all of that and then some. But from here, not from how I felt 2 months ago, um, I had a couple of brief bursts of like some optimism that the correction would be over in crypto, but my gut was telling me that it just wasn't the time yet, and we needed a bit of a flush out, and we had that, and we've had that, and I hope Bitcoin goes down another $10,000 or something because these little ones, I'm back to buying. I think I've got like 7 on auto weekly purchases on Coinbase. I go into MEXC, and that's another thing, guys. If you want to get on an exchange that's going to give you access to virtually all of the tokens, the small ones too, I'm going to send you my link, which is, I believe, 20 or 25% discount on commission, and you'll get approved quicker. And MEXC has a lot of early stage cryptos that are just coming on the ICO platform or are spun out of another coin, and it's got a lot of liquidity on the site. They don't have as much drama as Binance, even though Binance is the biggest, and that's also very viable for you. But if you do that on MEXC and you want to build a crypto portfolio, I don't think there's a better time than right now to start that process and hope that this like pullback takes another year. It's not, but let's just hope that it does. So you can sock away money in crypto, because as much as the juniors are going to move in gold and silver and make us a lot of money, nothing moves like crypto. And that will be the case again. And some of these little tokens I have just gotten smashed on. You could buy in at 80% discounts on some of these that I bought, just to be transparent. And I'll talk about the favorite ones that I still like there, that I'm buying there. Some of them that are bigger that I'm just utterly convinced are going to change the world. And you have to own some of that stuff. You just have to pick your position sizing and make sure you don't go in too big, so that if you get these big whipsaws on downsides, that you don't freak out and need to sell, to pay your rent or feed your family. But crypto is an excellent time. Phenom crypto, excellent time to be starting to get familiar and building positions back up. And I have a bunch that are down. Some of them I'm not counting on coming back because of the way that the management seem to, disappear. Some of them will, and a number of them are gonna just destroy the world. Like they're gonna go up 50 to 500x in the next, call it 2 to 3 years. We have to stop looking at crypto as what's going to happen next week, next month. Is it the 4-year cycle? Is it an extended 4-year cycle? Who gives a shit? It- as long as we're still on this trajectory of adoption and a deflationary amount of tokens available, you are in more and more real world cases. Uh, we're going to make an enormous amount of money. This is the new financial system. People just don't really know it yet, um, but it is. The fiat system can't last. Uh, it can last a little longer. We've seen them kick this can down the road so many times; it's incredible. But um, look, big gold profits, silver profits as I go forward. When I take some big chunks out, I'm back to sending it to Coinbase, sending it to Uniswap, MetaMask, and nibbling away at my favorites that are down a lot. And um, you know, 6 months ago, I was doing the opposite. And so it's really a great strategy to have some good sized exposure in crypto and in mining and metals stocks. And I'm working on some other stuff, guys, like, just with deals. And, now that I'm not really ever getting paid on promotion, you might see me like go on a TV tour and then a podcast tour and a publishing tour and promote the piss out of some of this stuff to see how high we can go. It'll be fun. And I don't have to worry about anything from the TSXV. So lots in store, guys. Again, Metalis hiccup, but I feel like it was a good thing for me at this stage. I'm more measured, calculated, but I'm very clear on where we can make a lot of money. And these new plays that I'm going to recommend on the venture capital list of sub $5 million market caps. You guys, I know a lot of you missed a bunch of these for whatever reason, or like the day that they're mentioned, you go in and you buy like 2 grand worth, and then that's it. I mean, I'm in this to make millions of dollars. And maybe you don't have as much money as me, but how do you think I got to the point where I can invest millions of dollars into crypto and into this other shit? It's because I push the envelope a bit and take risk with stuff like these plans that we've, determined. You don't want to go way overbearing on any one idea, but don't be a complete pussy either, please, because this is a once in a lifetime, I think, generational bull market that is just getting started in metals and mining, critical metals, and cryptocurrency. So let's crush it together, folks. Cheers.